Cycle 76, Momentum Day B, same style of program we've been using. We're gonna have side A and side B. One side is gonna start with a hollow hold lat pull down, so you will need to anchor this somewhere like the Queen X, whether it's on the ladder portion or if you have a side piece you can hook it to. Trying to incorporate some core stability exercises that are different than what we've utilized in the past and can be a little bit more fun, because we all know the importance of the core, but we don't want to just do planks every single cycle. Not that there's anything wrong with planks. So what we're going to do is have them anchor this. Hands are going to be held here straight above the shoulders. Okay, so they're not starting back here. They're going to create a little more tension from the start. You're then going to send those legs out, sorry you can't see my feet, into that hollow hold. So the goal is to keep that whole hollow hold as they hit the lat pull down. Like we've done in the past for hollow hold modifications, if they need to, they can tuck one knee in and do a lat pull down here and then switch halfway. They just have to kind of pull the band around the knee. They can also come into more of a tabletop so that we're shortening the lever, but we're still getting the ab work. If this is challenging with the single because it keeps hitting the knees, you can go 2 separate bands and pull down like so. Okay. From there, if that's still too challenging, you're gonna have them do a reverse tabletop and just take a dumbbell overhead. So it's the reverse motion of a lat pull down, but it's still giving them an opportunity to feel like they're doing the movement, but at a place that feels appropriate for them. Exercise 2 on side A is going to be a foot anchored hip flexion. So you're going to get the bench. You could use a plyo box. I think I like the bench a little bit better, but if someone feels uncomfortable about the hinging backwards, the box is going to add that little extra layer of support so they don't feel like they're going to fall off. So you're going to grab a heavy dumbbell. This one is a 55. They're going to hook their foot under and plant their heel into the ground. They're then going to bring their other knee up and they're going to come back on the bench, so supporting themselves on that dumbbell, and then come back tall. Okay, so they might have to figure out where the best positioning is for them, but this needs to be heavy so they don't fall. They're going to come back all the way back up, making sure we're keeping that packed core positioning. You can also add a crate weight, a dumbbell hold, or a kettlebell to make that even heavier. If someone feels uncomfortable, you can give them 2 dumbbells to wedge both feet and have them go both legs anchored and just working on core stability both at one time versus single-sided where they would switch halfway. Third exercise on side A is going to be a deficit sumo squat. So we've done a lot of heavy squats and heavy deadlifts in this part of Momentum Day B in the past, so I wanted to give them the opportunity to go heavy with some additional range so that they're using the strength they've gained through more depth. I realize there is a little bit more equipment required for Day B because of that, but hopefully we will see the benefit and the rewards of this. The safest way to do this is to have them deadlift off of the ground and then step onto the steppers, making sure that both of those steppers are the same height. This is the second time I filmed this because they were not the same height in the first one, so we all make mistakes. I also like to have the steppers slightly angled because the wider their feet are, the more that turnout can be helpful in getting depth and feeling strong. So that's why I have them angled at a V. So we're gonna deadlift, you're gonna walk one foot and then the other, and then they can kind of walk themselves forward to see where they feel most comfortable, making sure that those toes are slightly turned out the wider the stance gets, finding that nice brace at the top, lowering down as far as they can, exhale, stand tall. So they're thinking about driving those knees out so they're still tracking over that second, third toe. The biggest thing we start to see when squats get really heavy is as they come up, their knees dip in too much, okay? So you can have a little bit of an adductor assist. So what that looks like is out of the bottom, they might come in. As long as they correct it, it's not technically unsafe. So that's something that you'll learn if you ever watch powerlifting, that the adductor muscles are really helpful in helping drive back up to the top out of a deep, heavy squat. Side B for cycle 76, momentum day B, we're gonna start with a foam roller dead bug. If you don't have enough foam rollers at your location for how many members are in class, we have some other options in terms of dead bugs that we can utilize, but hopefully because it's a 2-side split, we have enough. Let me know if you don't. They're gonna have to use the foam roller somewhere near a surface, so the wall is fine, it doesn't have to be a Queen-X. What's gonna happen is they're gonna sit at the end of the foam roller, they're gonna lay lengthwise all the way down. So you should be supported from tailbone to head. The goal is that they then have a surface to put their hands on. If it's a Queen-X, they can kind of hold the side, or they're gonna put flat hands on the wall. So this is a little bit of a brace. So the back stays nice and flat, and then they're gonna march those legs up. So this is your starting position, okay? The ultimate goal is that we get to a place where we can extend the leg all the way out, maintaining stability on the foam roller, okay? From there, you can change the positioning of the leg, right? So I can go to a 45 degree instead, or I can keep the knees bent and tap down, okay? I do anticipate that some members for week 1 might need to come here in this reverse tabletop hold and just work on breathing. So they're just gonna hold, breathe for 5, bring the legs down, reset. And if you can't tell, it's hard because I am having a hard time performing the exercise while also talking. So biggest things we're looking for are that nice strong ab brace, as much load into the hands as they need, and then control of the legs. If that's too challenging for them, you can have them flip it, right? So legs can go on the surface. Again, this would be better on the wall. Feet would go on the wall. They're at 90-90. And then instead of moving the legs, they're gonna move the arms. Okay, so this is gonna be your easiest version while still staying on the foam roller. From there, you can give them banded dead bug options on the floor, and then you all know how to regress and progress a dead bug. Exercise 2 on side B is going to be this kettlebell power stairs. So you can change the height of the box however necessary. The biggest thing is we don't want it so high that at the top they have to lift even more, right? The goal is that you're going to deadlift the kettlebell basically to the height of the box. Okay, so you're going to stand in front of your box or your stepper, drive those hips back just like you would for a regular kettlebell deadlift. Deadlift, set the kettlebell on the box. This is a little wiggly. So make sure it's far enough back, because if it's too far to the front, it's gonna tip. And then using the handle, if they want, they're gonna hop up, reset, find their deadlift, back down, step, step, bring this a little bit closer, deadlift up, back down. In a perfect world, we'd be doing this on a wooden box, so the steppers might be a little bit more appropriate because they're more firm. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable jumping, they're going to deadlift the bell up, make sure it's safely on the plyo box, step, step, deadlift, back down, step, step, up, back to the ground, okay? So you can see how it's a little bit different in the shoulder positioning, because we have to make sure that that bell is safely in the center of the box versus keeping it towards the edge, because we don't want anyone toppling over. Let me know if you have questions. Third exercise for side B is gonna be a half kneeling press. The knee that's down is the side we want the kettlebell on, because we're trying to encourage that nice strong glute stability under the bell so you have a stronger press. So you can use a cheat clean. So if I'm going to my right side, right hand grabs first, left hand then assists into that rack position, finding that core brace, exhale press, inhale down. Because they're in a half kneel, it's gonna be harder for them to use that trunk sway to press that bell overhead. We wanna make sure that they are squeezing their glutes, keeping that rib cage packed so that they are not losing their core support. Big exhale press, inhale down. I would have people look at what bell they would comfortably press 5 to 8 times overhead and potentially going a bell down from that, right? Because half kneeling is going to be more challenging than standing. So whatever your standing bell is, go a bell down from that. Our Metcon relays, the first exercise is going to be a lateral power box step up. So starting with something lower, and then they can add height as they feel more comfortable or throughout the 4 weeks. They're going to start on that lateral position, and then we are driving the opposite knee up. The most advanced version has an extra little hop coming off of this leg. So you're here and you're driving, here and driving. Okay, if someone doesn't feel comfortable with that, they can stay here and drive up, tap back down. Okay, if we still don't feel great, they can step up and come this way. Okay, so they would keep one foot on the box. So this is our lateral up and over. If they don't feel comfortable with either of the other 2 power step up options, we can also completely take it off the box, so they can come here to start working on that hop. Again, changing that height as they feel comfortable. Exercise for our Metcon on day B is going to be a Bear Copenhagen. This is going to be best done on a bench so that they can have space to move that leg under to find that Copenhagen. So they're going to set themselves up in a bear beside the bench. The leg that's closest, that knee is going to come up. Okay, so it's a little bit of an abducted position. So they're going to elevate themselves so their bottom knee is hovering off the ground, and then they're going to come and drive that knee up. Okay. Advanced, they're going to keep this leg fully hovered off the ground. If they need, they can touch the toe in between, and then switching at the halfway point. If they don't feel comfortable this high up, you can grab a plyo box. You can still do this on a plyo box. You just have to position it around the corner so they have somewhere to put their leg. Or you can give them a bear variation here and a little bit of a break dancer shoot through so that they are getting a little bit of that cross body engagement if they don't want to be on the bench. Third exercise for the Metcon is going to be a single arm thruster. Now I realized in day B, this current cycle, we have a single arm landmine thruster in the first portion. So if anybody asks, gives you a hard time because it's the same exercise, this is going to help change the range of motion a little bit. So for that landmine thruster, we're really building strength and stability through the legs and connecting the motion. This one, you're going to be able to go straight overhead with that kettlebell. So if somebody has a hard time with this because of overhead range, you can use the landmine as an alternative. I'm going to demo with a kettlebell. You can also have them use dumbbells. It's single arm, so you're going to switch at the halfway point. Okay, so making sure they're safely bringing that kettlebell or dumbbell into that rack position, a squat all the way down, exhale all the way up, lower, back into that squat. Okay, making sure that it's nice and continuous. What we don't want to see is squat and then a press, right? We're driving fully with those legs to get the bell overhead, bring the bell down, right back up. Trying to make sure that they're not starting to squat before the bell hits the shoulder. Okay, if they start to squat here, they're going to gain a little too much momentum in the bottom of the squat. So waiting for that bell to hit the shoulder and then dropping back down. Last exercise for the Metcon is going to be our push-up negatives. The goal here is to try to keep them in that plank form as best possible. So using a target to change the challenge point versus taking them to the knees. So what you would have them do, hands are gonna stay under shoulders. We all know how to coach a great push-up. Feet are about hip width. Big inhale at the top, asking them to do a 3 to 5 second lower. Finding the ground. They do not have to do a push-up back up. So what you're gonna have them do is kind of roll and then restart from that full plank find and then slowly lower back down, okay? They can come back into that tabletop position, reset as they feel comfortable. If they're using a target, you can use a yoga block, a kettlebell, a couple of yoga blocks depending on how high they need that target. Same setup, keeping that strong plank form, slowly lower. Once their chest hits, they're gonna roll themselves back up to the top and then lower back down. Okay, so this is gonna give them an added benefit of a little bit more core stability, which is gonna help them gain on a full push-up a little bit more than dropping to the knees. But if they do need to drop to the knees, we always have that option, and we'd rather them choose an alternative that they feel more comfortable with versus discouraging them from doing the exercise altogether. So use your judgment.